ambush is a bad thing. If it's just one of you and you're outnumbered, right, you're pretty much just screwed.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to Whiskey, Lead, and Steel. Feelings hurt while you wait. The official podcast of Aggressive Defensive Solutions. And the smart ass on the end is Rick Sutton. And in the middle, the
apprentice smart
sane, the sane, rational one, Jeremy Phillips.
And the chief financial operator, future governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Lee Curling.
Oh, did I not introduce myself this time?
No.
Maybe not.
No, this is the Honorable Lee Curling, future governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
All righty. So,
chief financial operator.
Chief financial operator. So this week we're going to talk about what? Jeremy, you want to talk about this? We'll let you introduce it.
Operational shooting is a team sport.
There you go.
Yes, it is.
All righty. That's absolutely right. Operational shooting as a team sport, not an individual sport.
No.
This is not clay shooting.
No.
Right?
No.
It's not clay shooting, and it's not golf.
No.
So anyway, you want to kick us off? See your thoughts.
So I guess my thought is, we've made fun of the, so-called John Wick classes out there that, teach you how to be an operator, in 8 hours or less for $900 and 500 rounds in one day.
Do you get a sandwich with that class?
I think you have to pay extra for it usually. But anyways, you pay all this money, shoot all these rounds, get somebody to freaking pat you on the back and tell you how great you are when you're missing that steel target at 3 yards, which you shouldn't be shooting at 3 yards anyways, but we talked about that too. But, at the end of the day, okay, you're the most badass shooter out there. So what?
Yeah.
Unless you engage in that type of operational environment, you don't know that, okay, being the best at what you do only gets you so far.
Mm-hmm.
That gets you in the door to start the school, to start training with the people that you're going to do this with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether that is military, law enforcement, whatever, that, being that good of a shooter and a person only gets you to the door.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the selection process, whatever that be. Then there is the schooling that teaches you how to work with other people and doing all that cool guy shit. And then you actually get to go do that cool guy shit. Oh, and then you got to recertify and retrain and reaccredit every so often.
Yeah.
So by yourself, I can shoot the same as a tier 1 operator. Yeah, but you know what you can't do? You can't read fucking what the point guy's doing going through the door or coming up that fucking ladder, and therefore what you need to do as number 2 guy in the stack.
I'll throw this one out. You might be able to shoot better than a tier 1 operator, but you know what you can't do? Operate as a tier 1 operator. In fact, you probably can't operate as a Fisher-Price operator.
True.
Yeah. It's funny that we're talking about this. So I was listening to a Sean Ryan podcast the other day, and unfortunately, and I apologize, credit where it's due, they had the guy was on, he was a great guy, he was a former ODA cat, and then he'd gone to work for the agency, and he was involved in a surveillance op apparently that went bad, and that led to several hours of this guy by himself running around in one of the downtown dog shit cities in Iraq, and getting in multiple perpetual gunfights. He was being chased by a bunch of fucking bad guys, and in his fleeing to get away from the bad guys, because that's the smart thing to do when there's one of you and 7 of them, he ended up running into and running through buildings and running down alleyways. And from that, somebody has extrapolated the idea, and they've even called it one-man CQC. I'm not going to chuck rocks at this guy. He's credible. He knows what he's talking about. I think we have a phraseology issue here, and here's what it is. Close quarters combat. When we think about close quarters combat, what we're really talking about most of the time is building clearing, linear takedown, open air takedowns, that kind of thing, which is a team event. Anybody who knows it knows that the minimum you can go into a building with and be safe is 2. Ideally, the minimum you want to go with is 4. I like to have at least 6 guys, right, for rotational purposes. But going into a building, serving a search warrant, going in looking for a high value target or asset, clearing a building because you have to set up an LZ or something like that. That's a different animal than I am literally moving through someplace, trying to maintain distance from bad guys, and as I bump into bad guys, I handle that business and then move on. While it is close quarters combat because you're at halitosis distance shooting somebody, that is not what most people think about when they say CQP. And I think therein lies the problem. It's a misnaming of what it is that we're doing. And it doesn't mean that this guy is wrong, because he's obviously right. But the rest of the planet, right, when you say guitar, they think of a guitar, not of a ukulele. They're both stringed instruments and they're both shaped the same. So I think that's the big issue that we run into. But you're absolutely right from an operational standpoint. When I was a police officer, more times than I care to remember, because of necessity, I ended up having to search a house by myself. Horrible thing to do. If I had the opportunity, I always waited for at least one other person, or by, if at all possible, send in a dog. Right? Way better than that. But yeah, there's, just because you can shoot doesn't mean you can do all the other things. You know, Eric Balake was talking to us, and he told me, he said, it was funny, we were talking about training, and he said before he got to the teams, his whole thing was, I need to be able to run, I need to be able to run, I need to be able to run, I need to be able to swim and run because I'm a SEAL and I got to be able to run. He goes, and then I got to the teams and I deployed, and then what I realized was running, cardio is important, but running isn't the big deal, because you should not run to the objective and get there 5 minutes ahead of the rest of your team, and you should not run so slow that the rest of the team has to wait for you. He said, so his focus for a training standpoint for cardio then became, I need to find out what the heaviest guy in my platoon is, and I need to be able to walk quickly carrying his loadout weight and him for 5 miles.
Right.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit you're talking about when you start talking about operational stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And real running, intensive running, if you're running in a combat operation, it's because something bad is happening for the most part.
Yeah.
Right? And again,
Yeah.
you know, to flip to a different thing, I think we touched on this before, but Nico Ortez,
Yeah.
right, had this crazy, you know, hey, here's the Delta guys, right, and he's going typical Nico Ortez crazy, screaming with these guys, right, get off the helicopter, dead sprint, shooting bad guys. That's a whole different thing. They are operating at a different level than the other operators in any organization, right? Again, if you're running, you're probably, it's because something has gone to shit.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. But to flip back to the guy you were talking about before, you know, he's by himself. While he is engaging as an individual, it is not what I think I would have ever called CQC.
Yeah.
CQC is generally you're entering into an objective area for an objective.
Yeah, you're
a target.
You're on offense.
You have a target objective you're trying to meet related to the facility or the area you're entering, right? Whether it's open, whether it's an open air, or whether it's an enclosed building, or those types of things. He isn't engaged in advancing to the rear, right? He is in breaking contact. It is.
He is E&E.
He is engaged in E&E, right? Which is not CQC. Yeah. He does not want to engage. He wants to avoid contact so he can evade bad guys because he's by himself. And anybody that wants to go, well, that's CQC, no.
It involves elements of CQC.
Some of the tactics employed may overlap, but it is a wholly different objectives, wholly different context. It is not offensive in nature where I'm going out seeking out bad guys and trying to smoke check bad guys. It is avoiding bad guys and smoke checking the ones I can't avoid.
No.
Two different things. And people that want to conflate those things, they conflate them because they don't understand the difference.
No,
And I'm also going to go, I am certainly not going to take anything away from a guy who evades multiple bad guys, gets out alive, and leaves a path of dead bodies behind them and survives
absolutely
it.
not.
Absolutely not.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. And there is a lot to be said for that guy there. Right? Awesome.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, Rick, you and I have had piles of discussions about this of defense is always easier than offense.
Yeah.
And the entire premise behind CQC is to practice certain proven tactics that are repeatable and that you can do under stress to try to level the playing field.
Yep.
Not to level it, but to improve your chances of surviving while doing it. If you do everything right and you operate with a team that's doing everything right, you have a better chance of surviving than you would otherwise.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so there's a saying we had in the Army when you ask a question of, what do you do if you're caught in a perfectly executed ambush? Know the answer?
Well, if you're in a perfectly executed ambush, you're the one conducting the ambush.
If you're in the kill zone of a perfectly executed ambush, the answer is you die.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it's a perfectly executed ambush, now the reality is the ambush going to be perfectly executed? The assumption is always going to be the ambush is not perfectly executed. Therefore, you know, on a near side ambush, you assault through. You assault through. Right, on a far side ambush, right? Yeah. So
you do something to mess up the perfect execution
exactly
to give you a chance of survival.
Exactly, right? Ambush is a bad thing, but again, it goes into if it's just one of you and you're outnumbered, right? You're pretty much just screwed.
Yeah.
Right.
But you want to take out sim rounds, freaking, and one person be the defender, one person be, the guy trying to take the place.
Yeah.
Numbers won't lie.
Right. It's a different kind of ambush, right? But it's one of those things. If you're caught out with a group, right, you're ambushed. Everybody has a job based on where they are, and you can't go, hey, well, I got training from Bob on being ambushed, and I got training from Joe being on ambush, and I worked with Tim and Fred for a couple years.
Yep.
Okay, well, you know what? There's never one way to do something.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
And then you turn around and look like the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the other thing that runs into that, so I will say, nobody's plan survives for first contact. That always
absolutely, yeah.
And there is some truth behind the tactical theory of relative superiority. We do know that.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So just because it's you doesn't mean there is no hope.
Oh no.
It does mean that you're fucking stacked, right? But part of the whole concept behind doctrine is, and it doesn't matter if it's tactics or driving cars or fucking, building fences. There are several ways to skin this cat. However, we have found through time and exercise and analysis that this methodology under this set of circumstances seems to work the best. This methodology in this set of circumstances seems to work the best. So, you're absolutely right. If you decided to go out and take a badass John Wick starters class from Bobo fucking Tactical, and that dude had been in the Army and had gone through a CQC class in 1979, and then he had not been anywhere else. You went and you took his class, and then your best friend took a class for some dudes who had been with LAPD SWAT in the 90s, and he took a class from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you took a class, or your other buddy took a class from the guys at Blackwater in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and you did not have any further conversation. And we went, go secure that building. Go from the bottom and work your way up and secure that building. Yeah, you guys are going to fucking bump into each other. You're going to lose each other, because in those 3 decades, over the course of that 50 years, we figured out this is the best way. This is not a bad way. This way will work in a pinch. And depending on all of the other things. So if it's just you, then, and you're going to an active shooter, you might visually sweep a doorway as you pass it. If you're actually clearing the building and there's 2 of you, then your choices are you do a 1-man room entry and 1 guy holds the hall, or you do a 2-man entry and you re-clear the hall when you come out.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why you want at least 4 fucking people.
Mm-hmm.
But if the people you're taking your training from, because they have no real world experience or training, are teaching you something, and they teach you the wrong thing, and you get fucked, they're probably not there before the loop goes on.
Right.
And they probably don't give a shit. So vet your fucking trainers.
Well, you talk about that. There was a video that went around 6-8 months ago or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Two guys doing
Sim guns.
well. These are 2 guys, running back and forth like some, back and forth, and it's kind of a 3/4 shot, out watching them, and they run by, clear this room here. One guy's clearing the room, and the other guy comes and runs around the side of them, like, half laying down, and starts shooting at stuff, and then they get up and then they clear this other room, and then they go back and clear a room that's behind them.
Did they use the rabbit technique?
And nope, they did not use the rabbit technique. But the point on that whole thing is it kind of gets to where you're saying, right? Moving to an active shooter is not building clearing.
Nope.
Right? That you're making a broad assumption. There's one bad guy.
Yeah.
Or a limited
Localized area.
limited number of bad guys,
Yeah.
right? So I'm going and I may sweep. You're right. I'm going to sweep that room because I don't hear any gunfire. I don't see a bad guy in there, and I'm going to keep going. And I'm hoping beyond a hope that he doesn't come out behind me.
Yeah.
He's
Building-
not waiting there in that doorway for me.
And building clearing, right? If you're actually clearing the building, you never ever pass an uncleared opening, right? You just, right? And with one person, what has happened is when I step in that room, this whole Scooby-Doo thing happens. I can step in the room. Jojo, the bad guy, goes back behind me, goes in the room that I've already cleared. And then what? I'm going to go down. I'm going to come back out. I'm going to sweep my hallway. I go to the next one. And as I'm going down the hallway, Jojo, bad guy, comes out and pops in behind me, right? It's a team sport. And I don't think the point of this was to harp back on the 1-man CQC is a bad idea. We have beaten that to death, right?
But in case you didn't see that video,
You should go
fucking
back.
horrible idea. You should check it out.
Maybe I can figure out in the YouTubes how to make it appear
In the Instagrams.
somewhere. So maybe it'll be here. I don't know. We'll try to figure that out.
But, yeah.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the whole YouTube thing. But I think to your point was it's a team sport.
Yeah.
And it's a team sport in that you, while we are not proponents of, if you're not in military or law enforcement, stacking up with your buddies and building and clearing buildings. But the point being is, it is not something where you independently go get some training and then think, well, next week somebody else is going to come in, and next week somebody else is going to come in, and next week somebody else is going to come in, and then suddenly we're going to do the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Right.
You and five guys that you know from a shooting match are not going to put together an ad hoc, rapid action tactical team and do an entry on CVS where there's a homeless guy who's berserk.
Right. And I'm going to say this, all right, that you're not going to independently go to some classes, or I'll go to one class once, but independently go to classes, even if you all got the same training, and then stack up on the CVS and execute a building, because it is a team sport with team practice. It is no different than, a pickup game of soccer or a pickup game of basketball. It's a team sport. The difference with those where people go, well, I go play those pickup games. The difference is you have been practicing in that sport and you understand what each position is supposed to do. If you only ever played soccer by yourself, and the only thing you ever did was, okay, well, I set up a little goal thing about the right size and I kick a ball and I can dribble the ball and I can juggle the ball off my foot, but you've never played with anybody else, you're not going to play a pickup game. Right?
I'll go one better than that. If you were Pele, you were not taking on Manchester United by yourself. That ain't
Even
gonna
with
happen.
5 of your best friends that you've never played
Yeah.
with.
Or if you are Pele and Megan Rapinoe shows up, you are not taking on Manchester United.
Well, all right.
Well, I mean, if Pele kicks Megan and breaks her knee at the beginning, he'll probably win.
So let me say, Pele, let's talk about Pele in his prime.
Well, obviously not Pele yesterday.
Yeah. So, but Pele in his prime, Man U, they were downgraded. So, I'm sorry, Jared, but I know your team kind of has been on the outs a little bit, but he might take on Man U, and we might get some hate from that.
Who's that team that Brian Reynolds owns? Him and your boys Posh Spice, he could beat them, right?
But back to the point of, back off the soccer and kind of to the point, if you will. Can't believe I'm the guy bringing us back to center, but given the option, as cool, and as we've talked about the cool points of being able to do cool guy stuff.
Yeah.
Given all of our backgrounds, as diverse as they are, if given the option to do CQC to get an objective, or to do something else, I think we would all choose something else.
Oh yeah.
I know I've done it operationally.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we want you to go do VBSS and take this ship. Why?
Yeah.
Because there's bad guys on it. Why am I doing VBSS?
Yeah.
What are you suggesting, Lieutenant Phillips? I'm suggesting hitting it with fucking 5-inch shells and sending it to the bottom and picking up the survivors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Fedayeen in that building. We want you to go over and take the building. Okay. I need 16 fast movers. Make that happen.
I gotta say, for us, it was like, hey, bad guys in that building. All right.
Oh yeah. I love a Mark 19.
That's right. Mark 19.
Actually, what I found works good is you light up the 50 and you cut the wall in half, and then when the building starts to collapse, then you lob in the HEDP.
Right.
But which that was the nice thing about having the Ugos weapon system in the Amtracs, because we had both of them next to each other.
Yeah.
And if you stole the spade grip from the Navy for the 50 cal, then you could run the Mark 19 electrically and run the 50 cal and shoot them both at the same time. See, that's what happens when you let Lance Corporals loose on shit.
Yeah. So, yeah, look, we've known each other for years. We've done some shooting together. We've never tried to stack up on a door. We've never done any of that. And
Right.
I trust you guys as much as I probably trust anybody else. And I sure as shit wouldn't want to go through a door and clear a building with the two of you. Not because I don't trust you
Because we've never
as
trained for it
shooters,
together.
because we've never trained for it together.
That could be a fun bloopers reel.
But I mean, so you
we should do that.
yeah. But I mean, so when you talk about stuff like
Yeah.
that, so
Mm-hmm.
the conversations you end up having with beers with
Yeah.
people, and I get so you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
I know you know what you're doing, and I know what you're doing. I don't know that you know what I do.
Right.
So if they said, okay, Rick, you have to take 4 guys and go to a building entry, and you get 2 minutes to talk about it, but you can have any 4 guys that you know. John McCluckey, Sean Johnson, Mark Tiedemann, Chris Epperson. I worked with all of those guys. I shot with all of those guys. Nicole Cosmos. I did building clearings. At some stage of the game, I either did a training building clearing with every one of them, or I did live building clearings with them. And I know that they know their jobs, and I know that they know to do their jobs and not worry about my jobs. And that's the other thing that is a dynamic that people don't know about. So us and another guy all decide to train together, and we start training together, right? And intellectually, each of us knows, okay, we all know each other. We all know our jobs. We all know each other's jobs, and we know each of us has a job. One of the things that always gets overlooked when you're teaching CQC to talk about from a training standpoint is you have to do your job and just your job. Because if you're trying to worry about my job, you can't do your job. And if you can't do your job, I can't do my job because I got to watch you to prevent you from fucking creating a hole for me. And that's one of the many reasons that to effectively do CQC, either your specific team has to train together all the time, or your greater organization has to train so often that you inherently go, and I had this with Virginia Beach PD, I talked about the amount of training we get. I feel relatively certain that a 4-year veteran with Virginia Beach PD knows what they're supposed to do. So if I had to go through a building on an active shooter response, and I didn't know that guy, but I could tell that they didn't have Leroy Drive grass stains on their uniform anymore, then I feel relatively certain, based on the amount of training that organization does, that they know what they're doing. Not necessarily everybody else. And if, the training that you do is when you're being fucking Leroy Jenkins on the fucking PlayStation or whatever the fuck it is, that doesn't count.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't take into account.
I think, to that point, I'll throw another reference back to that Nico Ortiz video with the Delta Force guys, right? He's at a dead sprint going through, hits a bad guy, enters the house, hits a bad guy, jam, jam. He peels off, and number 2 is right on his ass. And he has no idea. He had no idea he was there. There was no verbal communication of any of that. It was just simply, when he said jam and peeled off to take care of the problem, the rest of his team,
he knows the training.
continued.
They knew what to do.
They knew what to do because, and he was not worried as he was executing, is number 2 behind me? Yeah. Nope. He knows I just have to go. And I'll, to go back to my military days, right, we had a standard for how we did CQC.
Yep.
Right, within the unit, this is the standard. There is no deviation from that standard.
Nope.
And as a first sergeant, when I'm observing training and suddenly it was one of the platoons, what are you doing? Oh, well, we think this is better.
Don't care what you think. This is how this is why doctrine is what it is.
This is and this is why. But first sergeant, there is no but. No. This is it. If there is something better, then it is a change to our SOP, and we will change as an organizational change. We will train to a new change because
submit it to TraDoc, let them vet it, and friggin' then it'll come out.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Because
but
then it becomes the way everybody
Everybody
does
does
it,
it.
so that everybody knows how it's
Right.
done.
right, and it's one of those things because I need to be able to take an individual out of a platoon because there's at any moment someone can move from one place into a unit into another place in the unit,
Yep.
and they've got to understand if they're number 2 in a stack
This is the-
that they are straight through the door. Right, number one through the stack is going to turn to the blind corner. The number 2 to the stack is going to go straight in.
Yeah.
The number 3 to the stack is going to move, or whatever that is.
Whatever
You-
that SOP is.
and of course,
but
things have changed, right?
Mhm.
So the number 2 may move to, may sweep from the open corner in at however those
No.
things evolve.
Yeah.
But you can't have,
You can't have one guy doing raps
One
on the
guy-
wall,
yeah,
one guy doing fucking limited penetration.
exactly.
Doesn't work.
Right? You can't have 2 different groups within the same organization doing 2 completely different things, right? Because team sport,
That's exactly
right? You cannot have a basketball team where 3 people are playing zone and 2 people are playing man to man.
Yep.
Right? It ain't gonna work, right?
Everybody's got to be on the same function.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck on the idea of putting Amy in the kill house somewhere with a sim gun, and the 3 of us friggin' stacking up and trying to clear the building
Oh,
without any practice.
she would
I
just
I-
eat us up.
I know. I think it'd be absolutely hilarious.
I'm still stuck on the idea of Pele going shin to shin with Megan Rapinoe.
Okay, that would be entertaining too.
Matter of fact, I'd say Pele and Ronnie Page smoking a cigarette against, whoever Ryan Reynolds owns. So fuck they are.
All right. So any rock bottles, bombs, hand grenades?
No, just, we say this all the time, and it's because it's true. Think about what it is that you're looking to get out of your training and vet your trainers,
Mm-hmm.
please. I was talking at W3 the other night
Mm-hmm.
and pointed out that we don't teach things that are unethical to teach. What that means is if it's not a good idea for you to do it and you shouldn't be doing it, we won't teach it because we don't want you to think you should be doing shit you shouldn't be doing or to think that you're good at doing something that you aren't good at or shouldn't be doing. You're not doing yourself any favors if all you're doing is going someplace to get patted on the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do that, take a fucking golf, man.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's people can do what people are going to do, right? And that's what it is. But there are those tactics that the level of training in order to get enough expertise
Oh, yeah.
is so monumental that
Yeah.
that the majority of shooters, the majority of individuals, it's years of training. It's years of training to reach a level of competency in order to be able to do it in a way that you're only going to probably be shot. Right? See, doing CQC, somebody's going to probably be shot.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm gonna go out on a limb at the whole feelings hurt thing. If you think that you are as big a badass as any of the tier 1 guys, right? Because you could shoot, because you show up with all your cool shit, right? With your gloves hanging on the front of your belt. Understand this: nobody graduated from Buds and immediately went to Dam Neck. Nobody finished the Q course or Ranger training and went directly to CAG. That never happened. You went someplace and you got good at being one of the best operational guys
Mhm.
on the planet, and you did it for years and got really good at it before they went and they took you onto the all-star team.
Mhm.
And the all-star team is way better than the really, really, really excellent, phenomenal, not all-star team.
Oh,
So if you didn't graduate the original entry-level training, you're probably not as good as those guys that you think you're out here mimicking. Just saying, man.
I don't think the vast majority of people understand what the tier 1 guys actually are.
Yeah, they probably don't.
I think that they look at the as you put it, the really, really good guys, and don't realize that
there's somebody better.
There's somebody, and it's not a little bit better, right? It's the gap, the chasm between the guys you see that are really good and the actual quiet professionals is just phenomenal.
Well, I mean, Larry, to quote Larry Vickers, Larry Vickers had been a Green Beret, and then he was doing that whole thing, and then he went to CAG, Delta. And the guys you see running down the beach at Little Creek or whatever, or Lejeune, whatever, those guys are in great fucking shape. Larry Vickers was in Olympic athletic shape the whole time he was at Delta, because that's what you got. I mean, he's not now. By mountain shape.
But so thus
he's shaped like an Olympic.
So thus Larry Vickers' article that he wrote. Oh gosh, it's been 15 years. They're like, why I'm fat?
Yeah.
But
yes,
we can laugh about it because he wrote the article that says, because I don't have to be an Olympic athlete anymore. But hey, I'm certainly not taking anything away from those guys. The Rangers, the SFODA guys, the SEALs that are out there.
Marsoc, DJs, all those guys.
Recon, MSRT, all those guys.
Yeah.
You're not as good as they are, right? Because they do this all the time.
Yeah.
And the guys you think you're as good as are so far beyond them, because they're a group that's this big that live, die, and breathe and eat and do everything together 24 hours a day, right? But I'm also going to go, you're not as good as the 82nd MP company, right? Their tactical team.
Yeah.
You're not as good as 10th Mountains. Any door kickers in 10th Mountain. Why? Because they do it every day. So when we talk about that, it's a team sport. It's a team sport because they're doing it every day.
Yep.
Right? When I was in Germany.
Moyak SWAT.
When I was in Germany, my guys, we trained on multiple man entry on a weekly basis. They're doing operational street work as MPs, and we trained weekly on building entry in a non-tactical environment, right? With just your M9, right? Because it's a perishable skill, right? So again, it's just to reiterate it's a perishable skill. It's a team skill. It's not something where you can go get training and go, oh, hey, we all went to the school 3 months ago, 6 months ago, whatever. And so we know how to stack up on the CVS and take out JoJo the bad guy.
So if you're learning how to do SWAT tactics from some guys who were never on a SWAT team, but they took a SWAT tactics class that lasted 8 hours, you might not be as prepared as you think you are. Right. Just say it.
Yeah.
I mean, not that anybody would do that. I mean, who would do that? Yeah. Is that less than DD214?
Not equal to.
Oh, we didn't tell you about that, did we? Yeah, because you were standing someplace else. So you know how Prince, for a while, was not Prince. He was the artist formerly known as Prince. And then he had the symbol. So we figured out a symbol for Vogue 1, which would be the less than next to the DD214.
Or the not equal sign.
Vogue 1.
Get shirts made up.
The poser. All right. That's enough being off the rails. It's time to be serious. Lee Curling for governor.
Mayor of Fredericksburg.
Have a great week.
Hey guys, welcome to Whiskey, Lead, and Steel. Feelings hurt while you wait. I'm Lee Curling, and with them.
That's easy for you to say.
That's all, folks.